We're probably the driving force behind the organization of this workshop because essentially we are trying to, for the first time, really systematically consult industry on what we do. And the mandate of the unit is related to data dissemination and data access, as well as data policy, to user uptake, to new business models, to international relations of Copernicus, but also to communication and outreach. So when you look at the workshop and you look at the breakout sessions that we have been having all day, they are directly related to our mandate. And our key objective here is to really get the feedback directly from the industry to the activities that we're planning to do, so that we can feed this into the space strategy which the EU is going to adopt before the end of this year, I hope. We're seeing a shift of focus in Copernicus. Our colleagues have been doing really an excellent job in setting up the space infrastructure and in setting up the services which exploit the data on a thematic basis. But now we're moving to a stage in the program where we are really focusing on the user uptake and the downstream sector. So we need to take a look at the whole value chain, as you call it. So everything, we don't look too much at the upstream because that we have been dealing with. So this is the satellites themselves, but everything to do with data dissemination, data access, the downstream sector, and also the end users is something which we're looking at quite systematically, all three pillars of this. The market at the moment is still relatively small. It's still relatively public sector driven, and that's a proportion that we would increasingly like to start shifting. It's not something which we can shift from here in Brussels, but at least we would like to put things on a sort of an evolutionary path for this to happen. And that's obviously for me the primary role of public authorities, is to facilitate and enable that to happen. I think the real challenge is to simply what I call unleashing the entrepreneurial spirit, because frankly this data can be used, when used in combination with other data, I think from across sectors, from healthcare to logistics to shipping to I could probably rattle off a number of examples. But the challenge is not just for us to dream up the concept, but it's really for our companies to go out there, make use of it, and ensure that there is a useful market for it. I think our whole concept around what we want to do over the next 2 to 3, well actually to 4 years, is a combination of the push and the demand. It comes back to what you describe as being the main challenge. We're talking about markets, the existence of which I think are not always aware of. And when you try to create new markets which don't exist yet, there is always the challenge of where they're going to come from and how do you deal with the unpredictability. I mean, that's also what makes it fun. But I think our whole strategy really revolves around combining the supply side and the demand side. And I think we are well on our way to not only understanding but also now implementing what it is we want to do. But first of all, I would like to receive the feedback from this workshop to see whether there are elements which we still need to feed in. Well, actually, I think we intend to take the inputs and include them in the approach that we're proposing. So we have a skeleton of an approach. We know more or less what we would like to do now, but we, one, want to test it with the industry. Second, we want to refine it on the basis of the inputs that we receive from here. And all of this we see as feeding into the space strategy such as the EU is going to adopt. As I say, because we see industry as being a central part of the implementation on the uptake of Copernicus data in the future. So it's not only fair, I think it's just common sense, to be honest, to listen to the people who will hopefully make use of the data and see what their needs are. That's what we're here for.